The Docker!
What's up?
I never yielded! And as you can see, I am not dead!
And a good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele, and here on Real Talks, we talk about movies that are old and new, trying to start the conversation back up about some of the greatest films of all time. And that's what we have today. One of the greatest films of all time for a multitude of reasons, and we're going to get into all of that stuff. So I just wanted to say that, we're continuing on the road to Black History Month. And I had seen this 4 or 5 times, and it's a joy to watch every time. And I couldn't wait to see it again. So, Black Panther. It was such an iconic movie when it came out. And it's still an iconic movie today, 6 years later. And I didn't realize this doing the research, that this is turning 6 on the 16th. So it's a couple of days. It's actually apropos. I'm doing it right now. So February 16th, 2018, it came out. And I'm going to get into all the details about what it did financially. I know I never said that, but this is one of the rare occasions where I think it needs to be told. Michael B. Jordan was not wrong. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan was not wrong for this. And he was incredible. So as I was saying that, so first and foremost, this came out February 18th of 2018. Hard to believe it's been 6 years. Almost, and just about 6 years. And it was the Marvel landscape at that time was so different than what we have today. We were 10 years in to the MCU at that point, and what was going on and everything else. And there had been rumors about the Black Panther being a part of the MCU. So what I'm going to do first is walk you through the cast. You pretty much know a lot of it, but I'm going to walk you through the cast a lot, the accolades, why it was so good. And then I'm going to talk about the development of the film, because I think that's where a lot of people, when we talk about Black Panther, we talk about the money it made, we talk about Michael B. Jordan, we talk about, Chadwick Boseman, we're going to get into him in a couple of minutes, and all of this. They don't really understand when this started. And I want to talk about all of that stuff. So, first and foremost, let's start with the cast, because that's where it really starts and ends. This cast was stacked. It was absolutely stacked. So this is the full cast of Black Panther. Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, Lupita Nyong'o, the late Chadwick Boseman, of course. Martin Freeman, of course, he was in all those Lord of the Rings movies, okay? Andy Serkis, who really is a genius that doesn't get enough credit in Hollywood, really started the whole motion capture with Planet of the Apes. He was in this, okay? Sterling K. Brown, who's just up, he's getting some accolades now for a role that he's, is doing in film this year, okay? The fantastic, the incomparable Forrest Whitaker, okay? Michael B. Jordan, of course. Daniel Kaluuya. And you got to remember, guys, this was the same year, or right around one of the years where Get Out, which, by the way, guys, if you want I just did Get Out as my perfect movie of the month. Go back and take a look at the perfect movie of the month, Get Out, by the incomparable Jordan Peele. So he was starring in that too. He did this. Huge year for him there. Letitia Wright and John Cann, who played the father of T'Challa in this film, and he did a fabulous job. And like I said, stacked cast all the way around. This was one of the shots taken in one of the premieres, and they just had so much fun on it, and it was just an amazing, amazing time. To not only be a Marvel fan, but to be, a comic book fan and everything else. So quickly across the board, and I'm going to get into him in a couple minutes. So you have Nate Moore all the way over on the far, far left, and he was really instrumental at the end of the day to where he was put in charge of this specifically so they got it right. Okay. And then, of course, going down the line again, you have Lupita Nyong'o, or you have, Andy Serkis, Michael B. Jordan, Chadwick Boseman, Kahlua, all these fantastic names that just make this film what it is. And so this went on, of course, and really broke ground, not only for Marvel, but for everything in general. So one of the first things it made, so it ended up winning Best Ensemble at the SAGs. Runaway hit there. And of course, that's done by the actors. So that tells you something. So that was just one of the many accolades it got. But it got not only the group accolades, it got the individual accolades. So this picture, okay, won 3 Academy Awards and was nominated for Best Picture of the Year. And that tells you something. That's an achievement, okay, in of itself. But a couple of the minor things. So when you have a film like this, you have to completely imagine what the costumes are going to be like. Because let's face it, the costumes are going to make the picture one way or the other. Ruthie Carter, incredible. She has now won 2 Academy Awards. She won for, of course, Black Panther. She ended up winning a couple of years ago for Wakanda Forever. And she really, when you take a look at some of these pictures, she really is the heartbeat of this film, because what these costumes represent, the cultural impact, just everything else, it's just incredible to see. Having to dress some of these women and everything else. Angela Bassett looks beautiful here, beautiful, and this was a well-deserved Academy Award. And all of these costumes, from Chadwick's to Michael's to Angela's to Forrest, they're all originals. They're all originals. So you have to come up with this in your mind and think, what am I going to do? How am I going to design? What was the culture back then? And it was reimagined, completely reimagined. And then you have set design, right? The sets. Don't get me wrong. A lot of this was CGI, okay? But this was, one of the sets on the shoot. And you just look at how spacious it is and how big it is. Now, truth be told, that's a green screen behind, in right here in the back, okay, where you can't see it. But they built all this stuff, okay? So, that's something in itself, and being able to, what do you do in the language and everything else, and not only having to build everything, but to come up with a language like Wakanda. So that in itself, having to reimagine everything. So now that I talked about some of the individual accolades and everything else, I want to really dive into what the financials were in this, because it's really something to behold. Those Black Panther all-women warrior outfits look like the one. And yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. And I don't know this off the top of my head. You know what? I'll check in on that right now that you bring it up. And it's a lot of the same type of thing. I don't know if she was the costume designer on that. So she might have been. I'm going to look into that right now. Let's see here. All cast and crew. Give me a minute here, guys. Costume designer. No, Gertrude Phillips did the costume design. But I absolutely see your point, and you're absolutely right about that. It does look a lot of similarities to the Woman King in how that, and they are warriors, don't forget. So absolutely, I can definitely see that. So what I want to do now is talk about the financials of this movie, because this is just one of those movies that just blow your mind when you hear the numbers. Okay. Now, I remember this. I mean, it was 6 years ago. Of course, I'm going to remember. But I remember seeing this in the theater 3 times because it was that good. So a little quick note. Okay. There had been only up until that point, there had only been 7 movies, okay, total, to ever make $200 million in its opening weekend. Ever. Okay. So this became the 8th. Okay. It made $202 million opening weekend. Okay. Which was about 28% of its total revenue here in the United States. Okay. This joins, listen to the list of some of the films it joins. Avengers, and by the way, guys, 7 out of 8 of these are all Disney productions. Take that for what it's worth. Okay. Avengers Endgame. So let's start at the bottom. Black Panther made $202 million. The Avengers made $207 million. Okay. Jurassic World, $208 million. Last Jedi, $220 million. The Force Awakens, and I remember the explosion when that happened, $247 million. Infinity War, and I have a theory about this. Not theory, but there could be an argument could be said that Infinity War did just as well or better, and it was leading into this because Black Panther was in that as well. That made $257.6 million. Spider-Man No Way Home, $260 million, which nobody thought was going to make that much opening weekend. And of course, something that will never be touched and a record that will never be topped opening weekend. Avengers Endgame, $357 million. So that goes to show you the company that it's in. Now, a lot of those are comic book films. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay. Endgame, Infinity War, Black Panther, they're all comic book films. But that was Marvel at its height. Black Panther isn't just a great movie, it's great marketing, yeah. You're right about that, because let's face it, the whole that was what everybody was doing, Wakanda forever, However, we see the future of cultural marketing, and it's not going to, it's a different atmosphere. It's a different landscape, marketing landscape out there. Completely. It's not, this was before the pandemic. This was everything before that had happened. So absolutely. But that's just incredible, guys, to think about. That there had been only 7 movies prior to make $200 million opening weekend. And that's what it was. And it was just mind-blowing. Like, oh my God. And so this just shows you the cultural significance of this film. And so, I was talking about the opening numbers. Now we talk about the all-time domestic numbers, okay? So it sits at number 6 all time, okay? There's only 5 films that have made more money here in the United States, okay, than Black Panther. Listen to this. Top Gun Maverick, of course, was last 2 years ago. Avatar, which redefined visual effects. Okay. Spider-Man No Way Home, okay, Endgame, and of course The Force Awakens. That's incredible to think about. This made more money than Infinity War. And I think that's partially because they had everybody in it. Black Panther was just a solo um, type of film. But this was just incredible. So now, Academy Award winner Ruth Carter, Best Picture nominee, So now, let me go through the timeline. Because the timeline here is extremely, we talk about that, but it's one of those things where you go, wow, I didn't realize it was this long. So now I'm going to walk you guys through the timeline of how long this really took to make. When we say it takes years, I mean it's taking years. Okay? So this starts all the way back in January of 1992. So we're talking over 30 years ago. Wesley Snipes announces that he has a full intention on, yes, he was. He was, absolutely, he was. And he is gone too soon. You're absolutely right about that, Deadpool. Wesley Snipes announces his intention to make a film about Black Panther and begun his work on it. Now, a couple of months later, August, okay, Snipes feels that African characters have been poorly portrayed in Hollywood films previously, and that the film could highlight the majesty of the continent due to the title character. So now we fast forward to July, okay? Snipes has begun, Wesley Snipes now, the guy who did Passenger 51, White Man Can't Jump, Blade. So he begins to plan out the Black Panther film. And of course, he stars in the 1993 film The Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone. And 8 months later, okay, Snipes enters talks with Columbia Pictures to portray the title character Black Panther. And only a couple of months later, co-creator Stan Lee joins onto the film. Okay. Now, 2 years later, okay, it enters early development, and he's had discussions with several other screenwriters, including and directors about the project, including Mario Van Peebles and John Singleton. John Singleton, of course, did Boys in the Hood, and he's done a couple of other fantastic films. So then you have, so now we fast forward almost 2 years. Okay. When the film is not, by this time, when the film is not progressed by January of 1996, Stan Lee has explained that he's not pleased with the scripts that's been written for the project. Wesley Snipes cites fans would confuse this with the Black Panther Party, which I don't understand that. I can't even believe that to be true for a minute. I think that it's just stalling and everything else. Okay. So now we move about a year and a half. Okay. Black Panther was first listed as part of Marvel Comics film slates. This is the first time, okay, Marvel Comics has even mentioned putting this on their film slate ever. So keep that in mind to where the release date is. Okay. March of 1998, okay, Marvel reportedly hired John Quinzel and Jimmy Piletti, okay, who were the editors of the Black Panther comics, to work on it, but they denied that they were ever hired and everything else. So 6-7 months later, there were definitely corporate problems in Marvel. So it gets put to the side, put on hold. Okay. So now we move into 1999. Now, guys, this is 25 years ago. Okay. That's when you have to think about this. This is 25 years from today, right? Wesley Snipes was set to produce and possibly star in the film, while Artisan Entertainment announces a deal with Marvel in May of 2000 to produce, finance, and distribute the film. Think about what else came out in 2000 for Marvel, guys. That's right, X-Men. That's right. So don't forget about that, too. So they had that on their slate. March of 2000. So now we're going almost 3 years. Okay. And there's been no movement. Okay. So now 3 years later, Snipes plans to make the film either Black Panther or he's going to make Blade 3. And of course, we know which one he chose. He chose Blade 3. Okay. July of 2004. Okay. During the release of Blade 3, the director, David S. Goyer, who of course was a producer on Man of Steel, says that Snipes starring in a Black Panther film is, in addition to Marvel's Blade, is, quote, might be overkill. So that's 20 years ago. Now, obviously, he would have gotten a lot of flack for that comment today. So, excuse me. So, moving on. September of 2005. So now we're 18 months. We're a good 18 months later. Okay. Marvel chairperson and CEO Avid Haddad announced that Black Panther is one of the 10 films being developed by the new Marvel Studios. Now, this is when Marvel Studios was just in its origin. Okay. This is when it's just beginning. Okay. Don't forget, we had the very first film from Marvel Studios in 2008 in Iron Man. So they had put 10 films on the slate at this point, and this was one of them. So, okay. So in June of 2006, Snipes said he hopes to have a director for the project soon. So he's still attached. He's still attached to this project. But it's not looking good for him at this point. And so that's something to keep in mind. Okay. So now we move to 2007. So Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige. So this is when Kevin Feige really started to step up. Okay. He said that he reiterated that Black Panther was still in development. Now, this is 2007. So that there's something else to be said there. This is the first time we're hearing Kevin Feige's name. Okay. So only 2 months later, 3 months later, okay, we have Tim Story, the Fantastic Four director, which, by the way, that wasn't a bad film. People really hate on the Michael Chiklis, Jessica Alba, that wasn't real. Ian Grunford, that was actually Steve Rogers. That was actually it's not Steve Rogers, that's Captain America. Chris Evans. That was really Chris Evans' first film in the MCU, if you really want to kind of nudge, right? Anyways, he expresses that he wants the actor from Blood Diamond, okay? And he's actually going to be in A Quiet Place Day 1 coming up this year. So he wants him to play as Black Panther. So now we move forward a couple of months later, and John Singleton has been approached. So now it looks like they're starting to come together, okay? And, okay, now they might have a director. So now 2 years goes by. Another 2 years goes by, and that's it. Marvel then hires writers to help come up with creative ideas to launch its lesser-known properties, including Black Panther, okay? Nate Moore, okay, who is the person I'll be talking about in a couple minutes, he was actually the head of the writers program, and he was actually overseeing the development. And Nate Moore was instrumental, absolutely instrumental in actually getting this done. And this is a shot here of Nate Moore, and This was on set actually on Black Panther when they actually, at this point in time, this was during filming, but he was instrumental. That's Nate on the right. He was really instrumental about having getting everything done and getting everything off the ground. So that's Nate Moore, if you're ever wondering. Okay. So he is now in charge of it. Okay. So from 2010 to 2000, so from June of 2010 to April of 2013, Wesley Snipes, as we all know, he got hit with a tax evasion charge and he served his jail time. So he was basically almost done. Okay. Now during that time, in 2011, Marvel Studios then hires documentary filmmaker Mark Bailey to write a script for Black Panther to be produced by Feige. Okay. Now we fast forward another 2.5 years. Okay. This is what I mean, guys. This is how long it took to get Black Panther made. Okay. In October of 2013, the metal vibranium, which we all know and love, bulletproof and everything else, this was actually when they invented and it was introduced to the MCU. Now, keep this in mind, guys. Okay? Keep this in mind. We're 5 years in to the MCU at this point. Okay? We've had Iron Man. We've had Thor. We've had Captain America. We've even had the Avengers. Okay? So they're in phase 1. And this really goes to show you the pre-planning that they do and how far in advance they have to do this. So this didn't come out until 5 years later. Okay? But they're already trying to think up a new thing. So, of course, what do? They come up with vibranium. So that's when it was introduced. Okay? So 1 year later, Feige announces that Black Panther would be released on November 3rd, 2017, with Chadwick Boseman playing Black Panther. Snipes is no longer involved. Okay, after all, almost 10, 15, 20 years later. This is the first time we're hearing Boseman's name. 10 years ago. So, yeah. So, 6 months later, or no, about 6 months later, in January of 2015, Boseman said that the film was going through a, quote, brainstorming phase. And the next month, Marvel would push it back to July 6th of 2018. Okay. So that's, we had release dates. Okay, they were just pushing it back another 7 months for when it originally started. The next month, Kevin Feige stated that the casting of the film was underway and that he was on set to meet with the directors about the film. Okay. And this is, I imagine this was the same trip that he talked to Nate about. Nate was talking to Ryan Coogler about. So, okay. Last slide here, or as we continue, I should say. In May of 2015, Marvel had discussions with Ava DeVera to work on either Black Panther or Captain Marvel. Now we know which one she chose, and that was Captain Marvel. She was actually in the running for it. Okay. The next month, Feige confirmed that he had met with several directors, including her, and said that he expected a decision by mid to late 2015. The next month, she takes her name out of the running for the film because she disagreed with Marvel on the story and didn't want to have it compromise her vision. A couple of months later in October, F. Gary Gray and Ryan Coogler, of course, we all know Coogler went on to direct this film, have been considered as directors. Of course, Gray went on to do The Fate and the Furious a couple of years later. So from October to December, Joe Robert Cole, a member of the Marvel's writing program, was in talks to write the screenplay, and Marvel then changed the release date again. This is the third time they've changed it, guys, to February 16th, 2018, and that was the day that it finally came out. So that is, that was the release date. That was the final release date of it, and it was, it was crazy to even think about that. I mean, we think about, how this film's, it's almost 6 years old, and everybody it's just one of those things where it's crazy. But you can see you can absolutely see how long it took. I mean, it was a journey. It was an absolute journey to get that done. And so that being said, I mean, I'm not going to really go through and talk about, what the film is about. I mean, we're actually introduced to T'Challa in Civil War because of his father dying. So, I mean, this is more of a continuation type of film. And this is more of a solo project that we're getting to see him in his environment. Where does Black Panther rank on your all-time Marvel movie list? That's tough. That is tough because premium, prime, top-notch Marvel. I mean, I gotta say, I'm gonna say top 5. Yeah, I'm gonna say top 5. I mean, look, I think what you could do, if you really wanted, was switch around all 5 anytime you wanted. That being said, I think that okay, and this could change depending on the day of the week. Okay. You've got Infinity War, which is really a tragedy when you think about it. A tragedy in itself that, you have a madman or a mad titan in Thanos going around doing that. You have Civil War, which, I mean, I'm not a comic guy per se, but anybody will tell you, anybody who's a diehard comic person knows that that's a 4 or 5 issue type of thing, and they were able to condense that. I think Black Panther is right up there. Money aside. Because you just look at it, right? From the cultural point of view, from the story point of view, from the acting point of view, having to invent everything. Guardians of the Galaxy is right up there for me, personally speaking. Yeah, I would put it top 5. I would absolutely put it top 5. Wakanda Forever was good. It wasn't great. Look, they had a lot. That was a no-win situation for them. That was really a no-win situation for them. And I think that what they did and how they did it was really as good as they could have. So, but that being said, I mean, take this scene, for example. This is the start of the film, okay? This is setting up what we're going to see later on in the film. Okay, this is more of a setup scene than anything else, right? Now, we know T'Challa wins the battle against one of the kings here, or one of the big heads of the tribes. Excuse me, because, he still stays the Black Panther. But this is setting up later on. And so, I mean, this is when we see this fight, okay, that's more of the more of the one you're really interested in. So I think, oh yeah, Winter Soldier, easily. I forgot about Winter Soldier. I mean, I think Winter Soldier is perfect. Black Panther, Age of Ultron, Iron Man, Thor: The Dark World, Deadpool 3 will obviously bump one of those out. Yeah, yeah. The one I would probably take out of there is Age of Ultron. And the reason I say that is because Age of Ultron was good, but it's always hard to follow up a great. Everybody was clamoring for the Avengers, right? And I think that when you have something, the biggest mistake they made with Age of Ultron, okay, is the storyline with Tony and Natasha. Just because that was the one kind of slip up they made. Everything else was really good about that. Yeah, I definitely keep Iron Man in there. I definitely keep Black Panther in there. Dark World, it's not a. It's so hard, but it's been a while since I've seen it. But yeah, definitely. I knew there was another one in there. Winter Soldier was that one I couldn't think of. But getting back to the scene, it just goes to show you that that was setting up the whole scene, right? And when he does what we think die, and he takes over, it's. I mean, this is a fantastic shot in itself. Okay, you have the dark environment. It's lit by fire. Okay, the herbs are what makes the Black Panther, and they're colorful and they light up the room. And then, of course, you have Killmonger, who, every single one of those markings is supposed to represent a kill. There was so many dynamics to this. Okay, there was the family dynamic, right? You had the mother and the son. Okay, and then I'm not even talking about what happens in the beginning. And there's so many different things, right? And then you have Andy Serkis's character, Claw. So I mean, so you have the Black Panther trying to go after Claw. Then you have to deal with, well, do we let? And that was another dilemma. That was another theme of the film. Do we let other countries use our resources, or do we let somebody else in that is not of that country? Of course, when Martin Freeman's character gets shot, they bring him back to Wakanda to heal. A lot of different themes and things there. But this is just one of those incredible movies. I would go so far as to maybe call it perfect. I think it's really there. I think it's a top 5 film for Marvel for sure. Not because of money. It has nothing to do with money. Story, creative, having to make everything. So it was just, but to think it's been 6 years, that's the mind-blowing thing. It's been 6 years since we've seen this, and it's fantastic. It's just a fantastic film all the way around. And you were right about one thing. We lost him way too early. Way too early. And when we talk about heroes and we talk about, people that we respect, he was a legend. I mean, one of the whole premise, let me see if I can't find that again. One of the taglines for Black Panther was was Hero, Legend, King. He absolutely was all three of those. He absolutely was all three of those. He was a hero to not only others, other adults, okay? But you got to remember, every single little African American kid, he was an inspiration to, because they didn't see a lot of black people on screen. And they said, oh my God, he's a superhero. I could do that. So, and even when he said he got the call from Kevin Feige that he knew he was going to be Black Panther, he was kind of giddy. And the first thing that ran through his mind, he said, was, I'm thinking of all of the black boys that are going to dress up as Black Panther. So then you have Legend. We lost him way too soon. Way too soon. I mean, just like any other legend you can, whether it's Elvis Presley, whether it's James Dean, whether it's Chadwick Boseman, whether it's whoever, pick anybody that has passed young. And the potential they could have had. But what made Boseman stand out, okay, is nobody knew he was really in that rough a shape with his cancer. There were only a couple people that knew. Obviously, his family knew, and Kevin knew. Okay, and I think Ryan knew too. But he never complained. That's why you didn't see him a lot in Endgame. Okay, I mean, he had the couple of scenes, but he was going in and out of chemo, and he never complained. And that's the thing. Like, he was prominently in Civil War. He did, Black Panther. He did Infinity War. And he was a legend. He was an absolute legend. We should all try to aspire to be Chadwick Boseman in that respect. Celebrity deaths really don't hit me that hard, but his passing this day really hurt. Yeah, it did. Because nobody knew. Nobody knew. That's the thing. It was like Carl Weathers, like last week. I mean, I met him, and everything else. So when I was at work and I saw that he had passed, I was really bummed out. I was really hurt because I knew him. And I knew how good of a guy he was. I knew how gracious he was. And to know that we're never going to see him again in anything. And that was the thing. Like, he was an absolute legend. One of the last films I saw, and it always interests me to see what actors do after Marvel, was 21 Bridges. 21 Bridges isn't that great of a film. Okay, he plays a cop trying to figure out, is a father. He's a son of a father who's a cop. It was a New York thing. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world. But he did as good of a job as he possibly could with it. Right? I liked it for what it was. But we lost him. And that's the thing. He's always going to be remembered as the Black Panther. He's always going to be remembered as the Black Panther. Always. Right? But, the thing is that he did other roles that were just incredible. Like, so that being said, I mean, he did 42, which I'll be doing on the channel later on this month. Okay. I'll be doing, a lot of some of the other films, but this is just like these two, and that's what made this film so good. They were just magic. They were just magic together. And, Michael B. Jordan was very lucky to work with him, and he said he was a great guy and everything else. And, it's just, yeah, you're right. He was gone way too soon, but he did other great films, and that's the thing. Like he did 42. I mean, can you imagine trying to portray the first Negro baseball player in an all white? Nobody likes you. I mean, I live in LA, and Robinson is, so it's one of those things where we lost him way too soon, way too soon. But he did, 42. He did Black Panther. He did you know, other great films. So, um, yeah, it's just, it is a shame. It is a shame. And to think that it's almost been 6 years since Black Panther, it's just, it's incredible. I might, I will have to sit down and watch it again because it's just, he's that good. He's that good in that film. But oh yeah, Draft Day, which by the way I'll be doing for the job. No, he was. Everybody who doesn't know that, let me see if I can't find this. You're right. So anybody who's that was the other film I was thinking of, right? I had to go back, and when I first saw it in the theater, and I went, okay. And then I looked at it again, and I looked at I looked at it again, and I went, is that who I think it is? And sure enough, it was Chadwick Boseman. Trying to see if I can't locate a picture. Yeah, here we go. This is, give me a minute. Save. Shoot. Screenshot. Hold on, guys. Because this is crazy that this is even turning 10. But okay, hold on. Save this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go over here. JPEG. Yeah, so Draft Day was, here we go. Be ready for you in a minute. Okay, download that. Okay, PDF. This is Chadwick Boseman in Draft Day. Hard to believe that he was young when he did that film. He was young, but that was one of those little films I saw in the theaters. That was incredible. Jennifer Garner and Kevin Costner. I mean, and that's the thing. We all know Kevin Costner is a sports guy. I mean, he did Tin Cup. He did For the Love of the Game. Of course, he did Bull Durham. He's done other, but that was a football movie. But that is a very, very young Chadwick Boseman. So, yeah, he was incredible. He was incredible in that. He played iconic James Brown, Thurgood Martin. Yep, yeah, and that's the thing. Like he'll always be known for Black Panther, but he did Thurgood Marshall. He was the first African American justice on the Supreme Court. He did James Brown. He did all these guys. So he did people. He played individuals that were iconic. And that's what makes him an icon. That's what makes him an icon. So, yeah, we lost him way too soon, though. So, but that is Black Panther. And it was fun to watch again. And it was a remarkable film. And Coogler, I don't know what they're going to do for Black Panther 3. I mean, they're going to make one. We all know that. It's just that I don't know how they're going to implement it. And that's going to be the key thing as we move forward. So, but, okay, guys. So, that is going to do it for Black Panther. So a couple of things coming up. We got a couple of more streams coming up this week. Okay. And of course, I'm going to do as many to represent Black Panther or represent Black History Month. I'm going to do as many streams and videos and everything else so you guys can get, because it is an important month. It is a very important month. And this is something that needs to be talked about. We need to talk about film with all of these actors and iconic directors and everything else. If you haven't already, okay, go back and check out Get Out, the perfect movie of the month, okay? And that will, that's really going to set the tone for the rest of the month. This was another iconic movie. I am going to be doing 42. I might actually watch that tonight and start to get those cliff notes ready for tomorrow's stream. Everybody who is coming in and stopping by, even for a few minutes, okay? First of all, thank you. But stick around. There's a lot of great stuff. And memberships. Memberships I want to talk to you guys about for a couple of minutes because, and Dadpool, you are a loyal member, and I say thank you very much. So to everybody else, okay, my goal is that I'm trying to get to do this full time. And the only way I can do this full time is with your help. Now, I've made these memberships extremely affordable, okay? The first month is going to be free for you guys, so you pay nothing, and you're going to get all this great content, okay? I'm talking about perfect movies. I'm talking about retrospectives. I'm talking about interviews when I can get them. So, and then, as we move forward, the first month is going to be $3 a month. It's a cup of coffee, guys. That's a gallon of gas right now. It's less than a gallon of gas, and you're going to get all this content, okay? Producers, $7 a month, and then the director is the highest tier at $10 a month. You can't get Netflix is $10 a month, and you have to pay, for ads for that. There is no ads unless you have premium, but you get all of this stuff. You get perfect movies, you get the interviews, you get the retrospectives, you get all the other videos for free. I'm not putting this behind a paywall, guys. Okay, keep that in mind. I could, but I won't, because I want to give this the best kind of content to you guys. I'm on the road, hashtag on the road to 2,000. I'm looking to get 2,000 subs right now, okay, by the end of 2024. My goal is 2,000 subs and 15 to 20 paid subscriptions, okay, paid memberships. And I'm making it as cheap as I can, guys. And I would really appreciate if you guys were to help me out. And I will provide you with the absolute best content and streams and retrospectives and everything else on this channel. Go back and watch some of the interviews, guys. I mean, I've interviewed, Phil Walsh, who's been on the show before, movie critic. Ryan McQuaid, I've done, I've interviewed a lot of decent people in the industry. Hopefully I've got my fingers crossed, got couple of others, coming up. Award season might be a little bit busy, but that all being said, but I would really appreciate your guys' help. And, if nothing else, please hit that like and subscribe button, because what that does is two things. Number one, it tells me you're enjoying the content. And number two, it spreads the word. It gets the videos out there to others. And I want this on their recommendation screen. So when they're scrolling through on their phone or on their laptop and they see what's Real Talks, okay? And trust me, if it's not for me, go check out the channel trailer. If he's not the one to get you to sign up or even hit the like button, I don't know what will, okay? But yeah, that's what I want to do. I'm trying to build this up as much as possible. So, all of that being said, yeah, thank you for all of your support, whether it's monetary or just hitting the like button or just getting it out there to others, So that is gonna do it for today. Tomorrow, I think what I'm gonna do tomorrow is I'm gonna sit down. I'll watch. It's 4:30 right now. I'll sit down at some point tonight. I'm gonna watch 42, and I will have that either up. We'll do a stream on that either tomorrow or Thursday, one of the 2 days. So guys, I gotta say, hit that like and subscribe button, and that way you get all the notifications for all the videos and streams. Okay, so that's gonna do it for me for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I had an absolute blast talking about Black Panther. It was fantastic. So I want you to do the 3 things you need to do. Be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day, no matter where you are. I am David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.